By the way, that great everybody as you come in, that great melodious radio voice you hear is my guest today, Chris Goldsmith. We're going to get into it here in a minute. I'm so excited to chat with him. As you all come in, welcome this Friday. Come on in. You know the rules. Press those red hearts. I'm told it does something to the algorithm. So welcome, everybody. Come on in. Hope you've had a good week. We've got an interesting and I would say important conversation for everybody coming up. My guest, Chris Goldsmith, he's an Army veteran, an Iraq War combat veteran, an activist. I love describing you to people, Chris. An activist, you're an investigator, and you are obsessed with, and I mean that as a positive, this notion of extremism in our midst, right-wing extremism near the seats of power, in our military, militia groups out there, all the rest. And you're doing yeoman's work out there investigating this stuff, all in a defense of democracy. You got a great new podcast I want to get into called On Offense, the On Offense podcast that I want to get into and promote. Everybody listening on Substack here. All of you who are subscribed to me as you come in, make sure you are subscribed to Christopher Goldsmith on Substack as well. My brother, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, man. It's good to see your face again. It's been too long.
When you sit down with someone, if you've got an audience of a few hundred people here that we do, and it will grow, and someone asks you, Chris, what do you do? How do you answer that?
It depends on the crowd. So, so during the COVID pandemic, my wife and I had just moved out. The winter happened. We went to Florida. We came back home to New York. We finally go out after months of lockdown. My wife drags me out to the local town bar, which I had never been to. And she had been there with a bunch of her girlfriends, and they don't recognize this, but they're part of the hot group. So wherever they go, they have a lot of fun. She thought that it would be the same if she brought me. It was not. So I sit down at the bar, and a guy and his guy maybe a little younger than me, like late 20s, early 30s, comes in with his dad. And he sits down, and I see he's got 1776 tattooed on his knuckles. And he asked me what I do for a living. So I say, well, I'm an investigator. And he's like, oh, what do you investigate? And I'm like, I investigate online crimes. And he kept digging and he kept digging. And I was finally like, all right, I'm a Nazi hunter. And his response to me was, oh, so you take away people's First Amendment?
Oh.
Lo and behold, my wife has not asked me to go to a bar ever again. So yeah, it depends on the crowd.
But Chris, I love that. Start there. You are a Nazi hunter. So explain what that means.
Yeah. So actually in the latest episode or what will be the newest episode of On Offense, I talk about the origin story of this Nazi hunting career. In 2015, 2016, I started investigating what I later found out was a Russian influence campaign that was targeting troops and vets, right? Pushing a lot of racist rhetoric, a lot of extreme rhetoric, anti-LGBTQ, dividing veterans against other subsects of our society. So I had already been I already spent like 5 years investigating disinformation that promotes extremism.
Yeah.
I got laid off in the beginning of the pandemic, and a buddy of mine that I served with, one of the most badass motherfuckers that I have ever met, a sniper, calls me out of the blue. We had never had a discussion about this before, and just goes, hey, Goldie, I joined a neo-Nazi organization, and I want you to help me take them down from inside.
Whoa!
Yeah. So the last time, every time that this guy calls me, and it's once every few years, my life changes in a drastic way, always for the better. The time that he had called me prior to that, I ended up collaborating with VA doctors to go inpatient to get one of our mutual friends to go inpatient because that going in with him was
Yeah.
the only way.
Yeah.
So every time this guy calls me, something weird happens. So I thought when he used the term neo-Nazi that he was exaggerating.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was inside of Patriot Front. They're the ones who jump out of U-Hauls with the Best
Yeah.
Buy uniforms and the white
Yeah.
masks. Wasn't until I was inside and I saw them talking about Nazi and fascist philosophy. I mean, talking about books and thought leaders, if you want to call them that, sharing propaganda videos and talking about, and again, this is 2020, talking about
Yeah.
deliberately contracting COVID and then going into minority neighborhoods with the goal of spreading it.
Ugh.
So after I saw that, I cannot walk away from it. It's impossible.
Wow.
I mean, most Americans have no idea that anything like this exists in our society. Maybe we've seen with Stephen Miller, it's become a little more
Yeah.
obvious that there's an
Yeah.
undercurrent here, but it is bigger and it is more dangerous, and it's a lot more than Stephen fucking Miller. Like there are tens of
When you
thousands
say,
of these guys.
and by the way, again, everybody, as you're jumping on, press those red hearts. I'm with Chris Goldsmith, an Army veteran, as importantly, an investigator of these right-wing extremist groups in this country. Chris is doing God's work. It's important work. And Chris, you said something there. Most Americans have no fucking clue how dangerous and pervasive this element is in this country. How pervasive is it? How much
So
more of a threat is it than most Americans think?
yeah, so I live in a little town, and Nazis have tried to have me killed. I've been doxxed in New York State, unless
Yeah.
you have a protected voter file, your address is very easy to find.
Mhm.
So Nazis have doxxed me, posting my home address online. So I don't mind saying this on the internet. I live in a little town called Pleasantville.
Yep.
And there is Nazi iconography spray painted in parking lots in this little town. This is a town where kids grow up with every privilege that you can imagine.
Yeah.
So the radicalization is not due to desperation or falling on hard times. It is pervasive. It reaches. And Stephen Miller's an example.
Yeah.
This is a guy who grew up in California with a great life,
Yep.
or what could have been a great life, and he went down that rabbit hole. So this is everywhere. It's in every neighborhood.
What attracts people to this, and what type of people are attracted to this in your experience?
So there are people who fall vulnerable due to there are tropes. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people assume when they hear about extremist veterans that veterans must be prone to it because they have PTSD and
Yeah.
the war impacted them that way and they got filled with hate. And that may be true to an extent with some people. But veterans are less likely than the average American, only slightly though, to adopt conspiracy theories, which are the basis for racism and anti-Jewish hate and all that, right? So people join these hate groups because they grow up in a family that is explicitly racist, or I think what's most common is it starts off with jokes for this youngest generation, especially those that were isolated during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Starts off with edgy jokes. I grew up with George Carlin being the edgy guy,
Yeah.
using the 7 words that you can't say on television, right? That was edgy, but he was a working class guy. He was a different kind of comedian. These kids grow up with edgy being insults that are harmful. And those insults and jokes gradually they get so immersed in them and kind of daring each other, playing Call of Duty to say something even more fucked up, that they start to absorb those horrible jokes as real beliefs.
Oh, interesting. So there may not be necessarily a philosophical tug pulling them.
Not always.
No.
You know, there are, I think the memification
Yeah.
is a broader way to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I was just writing about this. I have watched over the last 10 years a lot of my colleagues or my peers start off with Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, these kind of
Uh,
mean-spirited memes,
yeah.
you know, these like dunking on the libs. Charlie Kirk had, you know, what for Facebook and Instagram and all the rest was like catnip for
Yeah.
people, where he
Yeah.
would say, "Hey, liberal, if this, then why that?" Right? That
Yeah.
was every fucking meme.
Yeah.
So I have watched a lot of people start to kind of get into this idea of um, a belief that they wouldn't consider themselves supremacist, but that
Yeah.
their beliefs are supreme. Their beliefs um, are more valid than someone else on the political spectrum. And when you get into and Ben Shapiro is Jewish, right? And he's been
Yes.
talking for months now about how the Elon Musk side of the Republican Party has an anti-Jewish problem. But Ben Shapiro has served as the opening funnel,
Oh, yeah.
the top of the funnel for this anti-Jewish hate,
Def.
because they promote these conspiracy theories. They blame the other, and the basis of so many conspiracy theories, the Great Replacement conspiracy
Yeah.
theory, which now informs pretty much all of the Republican Party. It's not just MAGA anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, the core of that is not simply that they believe that black and brown people are literally replacing white people, but
Yeah.
that a secret cabal of Jewish people are orchestrating that replacement.
You know, it's Chris. It's so fascinating, and I know you probably are aware of this. Like I was like Charlie Kirk's political father way back in the day. He was
Mhm,
16 years old when I first went to Congress. We went our separate ways because I stayed Tea Party. He became MAGA.
mhm,
Um, but you're so right. I the last 7 or 8 years I abhorred his views. He was in essence a Christian nationalist.
mhm.
And you're right. He would throw out this shit and then walk away. And I've always been fascinated by like how big of a leap is it from a Charlie Kirk to a Nick Fuentes?
Yep.
Like, there's no doubt Charlie Kirk was a supremacist. I believe he was a Christian nationalist.
Mhm.
Nick Fuentes seems to be at another level, or is he? Or what is that difference?
So Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk have been, as far as influencers go in the right ecosystem, the far right ecosystem,
Yeah,
they have been like sworn enemies. It's
yeah,
not what Charlie Kirk ever wanted, but
yeah.
Nick Fuentes was the thing that Charlie Kirk couldn't get away from.
Mm,
Now, Charlie Kirk was, like we said, Ben Shapiro, the opening end of this funnel towards extremism.
mhm.
So what Nick Fuentes did over the course of years, they called this the Groyper Wars,
Yeah,
what he calls his followers. They would go to Charlie Kirk's events and they would get in a line, say 10 deep, and they would strategically plan their questioning to try to bring Charlie Kirk, try and bait him into saying ever more extreme things.
uh,
So there was a very deliberate attempt to try to use Charlie Kirk's logical fallacies that he's so good at, was so
yeah.
good at, against him and pull him further and further and further right. There was a video, I can't even find it now. I looked hard for it after he was killed, of him swearing off the Great Replacement theory, conspiracy theory, like very clearly on his podcast, saying why it is bad, why people shouldn't believe in it. By the time he died, he had fully embraced the
Yeah.
Great Replacement conspiracy theory, and that is because he had no choice. That is the way that MAGA was going.
completely spot on.
Mhm.
And you had to hop on that train if you wanted to stay relevant and keep the audience. Um, in the military, Chris,
Mhm.
how big of a threat is extremism, right-wing extremism, what we're talking about right now? How big of a threat is it in the United States military?
The Let me answer how I would have said 24 months ago. Um, 2 years ago, I would have answered this question, by saying that all it takes is one intelligent person to do a tremendous amount of damage.
Mm,
I was a junior soldier, and when I was 18 years old, Fort Stewart, Georgia, in 2004, with a sock and a 13 millimeter wrench and a lighter, like I could do millions of dollars worth of damage.
mhm.
I'm not going to get more descriptive than that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when you're around, and that's not talking about ammunition at all
right.
or weapons, right? We have seen not too long ago a deranged lieutenant stole an armored vehicle in Texas and took it for a joyride. Right?
Yeah,
These things are. Uh, it is amazing to me that they don't happen more often. So, is there a threat? All it takes is one. Is the answer, and a tremendous amount of damage can be done by someone who is motivated enough and has access to the components of a mass murder. But today we have a deranged, drunken Fox News host
yeah.
calling
Thank you.
himself the
Thank
Secretary
you.
of War,
Thank you.
who has Christian nationalist tattoos, but everyone in the press, I think, and talking heads like us talk about the tattoos too much. He wrote fucking books
Yeah,
about like
yeah,
American Crusade is
yeah,
a Christian nationalist fucking like
yeah,
propaganda tool. So we have a man who is trying to instill in junior soldiers, and I use that term very broadly for all of the forces, trying to instill in junior soldiers that it is okay to murder people without
yeah,
congressional authorization, without an
yeah,
authorized use of military force, without declaration of war. You can just kill people. That is what he is not just teaching young Americans, but what he is showing. And what is most disappointing to me is that in the Caribbean, everyone from the highest level commander to the lowest person who's flipping the switch or pressing the button to launch the missiles, that no one in that chain of command is capable of resisting what on its face
yeah.
clearly looks like an illegal, unlawful order.
And it clearly is. Again, you're right. He's as Mark Kelly said early this week, Senator Mark Kelly, in talking about Hegseth, he's like a 12-year-old playing army.
Mhm.
But he's dangerous because he's the Secretary of Defense. And you are right, and I don't think most Americans fully grasp this. The Secretary of Defense is an out-and-out Christian nationalist,
Mhm.
period. Um, that mindset, Chris, do we know how pervasive this extremist Christian nationalist right-wing mindset is in the rank and file military? Is it growing? Do we have any way of knowing this?
I cannot quantify it, but let's do a thought experiment. So I was born in '85, and so I grew up in the '90s. That all of my childhood memories are of the '90s. I was
Mhm.
16 years old when 9/11 happened, and that shaped the rest of my life. It
Yeah,
shaped my identity. I became a service member, became a veteran, deployed to war. Right, kids who are joining the army right now were 8 years old when Donald Trump came onto the scene. And
wow.
if they grew up in a MAGA family
Yeah,
where this was not just normal but celebrated, like mom and dad are going to the rallies and bringing the kids and wearing the American flag hats and shirts and shorts, and they've got Fox News blasting, talking, supporting everything that Donald Trump has ever done. Their version of normal is
yeah,
not what our version of normal is. So the Overton window
Mhm.
that they were raised in is way off to the right compared to what
Yeah.
we knew when we had our formative years. So uh, it it frightens me that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are very deliberately asking Republican governors to take their National Guard troops and deploy them to
Yeah.
Democrat-led cities, because they know that it is more likely that if they take those National Guardsmen, that they will have the mindset that they're going into enemy territory,
Mm.
that it is inherently dangerous. Like, all these people believe Fox News headquarters is in New York City. It's not fucking dangerous. All these people who watch Fox News, who were raised on Fox News, that is their entire reality that they grew up with, thinks that New York City is a hellhole and the people there
Right.
hate real Americans.
Right.
So if the Texas National Guard comes in and gets dropped into the middle of New York City, the likelihood of one of them pulling the trigger when it is wildly inappropriate to do so, which is virtually every situation, is exponentially higher than
Mm.
it is a kid who grew up in Harlem, knows the city, and considers these people his friends and neighbors, and people he has an
Yeah.
attachment to.
Is Chris, is it would it be fair to generalize and say that most rank and file members of our military are Trump supporters? Let me
Uh,
rephrase that. Would you say most rank and file members of the military did more vote for Trump or Kamala Harris?
it is a plurality of those who voted for Donald Trump. So not a
Okay.
majority.
Yeah.
The best polling that I've seen, and I can't cite it exactly, the best polling that I've seen was it was like 48 or 49. So within the margin of error for a majority. It voted for Kamala was 38% or
Okay.
42%. But most service members and veterans, like a lot of Americans today, consider themselves independent.
Yeah. Are they how big is the MAGA mindset?
Dangerously big. I mean,
Wow.
we saw, it's now months ago, but when we saw Donald Trump speaking at Fort Bragg,
Yeah.
when he was giving a very clearly
Oh,
political speech, we saw the reaction of the soldiers behind him.
right?
I mean, they were self-selecting to a certain extent.
Yeah.
They were Trump fans who went into there, but they believed that in the presence of their commander in chief, knowing that they are on national television, that they did not have a duty to maintain their military bearing. And if in that situation they don't believe that they owe a duty to the uniform, to the force, to history, to maintain their military bearing, I would expect nothing more of them in a hostile situation.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris, I just I wish every American could hear what you just said. Um, the the domestic extremist groups that you investigate and keep an eye on in the military, out of the military, whatever, these right-wing groups, um, is Trump just because Trump's not a true believer in anything but Trump.
Yeah.
All he
Mhm.
fucking cares about is Trump. Is he just a vehicle, Chris, to them? Or
So they have vacillated back and forth. During the first Trump administration, leading up to 2017 and the Unite the Right neo-Nazi rally in
yeah,
Charlottesville, they saw Donald Trump as the I forget the popular phrase that they used to, but like the great bringer of these white supremacist ideas, and that is why they felt brave enough to show up for
yeah,
flying swastikas
yeah,
in Charlottesville. Then they gradually became disappointed with him during his first term because he was so incompetent and because he made
yeah,
people like them look stupid.
yeah.
And Nazis were associated, especially after Charlottesville, they were associated with incompetence. But today, the neo-Nazi organizations that I track they're not going out and protesting nearly as much because they have nothing to fucking protest.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump is living
Yeah.
beyond their wildest dreams. Everything
Yeah.
that they wanted to happen, these mass deportations, the secret police, the executions of foreign nationals in international water, everything that they wanted to happen to make us a white ethno state is happening. So they are just basically just sitting back. I don't have any data on this. Uh, so this is just a hunch. But my guess is that the kids, and they usually are kids, like 16, 17, 18-year-olds who used to join Patriot Front, the guys who
Yeah.
jump out of U-Hauls, who used to join it. Why the fuck would you join that? Why would you wear a white mask and join an organization where you have to buy stickers from the leader and then put them up every night and take pictures and prove that you're a true white nationalist, when you could join ICE and get paid to
Yeah.
actually put your hands on brown people?
Yeah.
Right?
Stop right there. Drop the mic right there. That's where I was going, Chris. Again, everybody joining us right now, thank you for joining us. This is such a fucking important topic that does not get spoken about enough. My guest is Chris Goldsmith, an Army veteran who investigates neo-Nazi groups all over the country. He does God's work. I've said repeatedly, Chris, that Christian nationalism
Mhm.
is the most powerful animating force in my former political party.
Yes.
Would you generally concur with that?
Yes. Religiosity is incredibly powerful. It
Okay.
it is it provides for people the alpha and omega, right? That's the whole point of religion. It protects you from the fear of the unknown. When you are, whether it's a mainstream religion or a cult, when you
Yeah.
have an organization or a person telling you that if you just follow these rules, paradise is guaranteed,
Yeah.
it becomes really easy to manipulate you.
But then, Chris, so my question then was, these groups you're investigating, these neo-Nazi groups, these white supremacist groups, these right-wing extremist groups,
Mhm.
what is the more powerful motivator among these groups? Is it more, and I know there's an overlap, is it more the Christian nationalist aspect or is it more the white supremacy aspect?
I I that's a very good question. I think that you should think of religion not as a motivator, but as something that empowers someone.
Yeah.
If it, to defend white supremacy is in most circumstances very difficult if you're doing
Mhm.
it openly.
Yes.
But if you are saying this is my religion, therefore X, Y, and Z is what I
Bingo.
believe or do, you are empowered because our culture says that we have to be permissive of each other's religious beliefs.
Yeah. Chris, that's such a fucking astute thing to say. And in my experience, dealing with kind of the radicalization of my former party, dealing with now we're in a place where the Speaker of the House, the Vice President, Charlie Kirk, I mean, so many thought leaders on the right openly now profess Christian nationalism.
Mhm.
It's an easier thing to put out than to say, look at me, I'm a white supremacist. It's a lot easier to say, look at me, I'm a Christian nationalist. Even though I think what you're saying and what I believe is, for most of these guys, it's one and the same. The white supremacy they keep quiet about.
Yeah. So one of the things about 5 years ago when QAnon used to be a big thing
Yeah.
that I was, researching and was very relevant leading up to like January 6th, most of the QAnon events would be focused on Christ. Most of the QAnon events were not
Wow.
focused on Q. Q was there. Q was
Yeah.
branding, right? But it was all about Christ.
Wow.
In I went to Branson, Missouri, the weekend before the election in 2022, to an event called the Reawaken America Tour, hosted by Clay something and General convicted felon, former General disgrace Mike Flynn.
Yeah.
And Q was discussed a little bit of at the time, but what was their headliners were these religious Christian rock bands and these prophets, these people who said that they were literally speaking the word of God, like
Yeah.
God was speaking through them in that moment. People speaking in tongues. That movement, the real far right conspiracy theory, right, is branded in a way so that it attracts people who might be attracted to like the mega church version of Christianity. So
Yeah.
that like flash, like Charlie Kirk's funeral with the
Yeah.
fireworks. It
Yeah.
looked like a WWE show, right?
Yes.
That brand of Christianity is very, very susceptible to the slick salesman getting on stage
Yeah.
and slipping in the anti-Jewish, the white supremacist, election conspiracy theory, anything. They will take any conspiracy theory and adopt it because a man of God
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Mike Flynn is telling them.
Yeah. And look, I think it's fair to say, based on the conversations I've had with them over the years, and this is your area, they want America to be a white Christian country again. They
Mhm.
want America to be a white Christian country again. It's more difficult to say, I want America to be a white country again. It's easier to say, I want America to be a Christian country again.
Yes.
That's what I've found.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is inherent in American Christianity, in American culture, that Christianity is associated with whiteness.
Yeah.
That has always been. It's not unique to our country, but it is part of the founding myth of America. Whether it's the Pilgrims or it's John Smith and the Mormons, whiteness and white Jesus is always
Yeah.
part of the myth that um, stands as the skeleton of American Christian culture. And I want to be careful to separate the religion from the culture,
Yeah.
because these two things I'm personally not religious at all, and that's why I kind of use dismissive language about it. But Christianity is respectable. The
Hmm.
culture of American Christianity is about power and politics.
Hmm.
These are two totally different things. The teaching of Jesus and
Yeah.
wielding power are two fucking different things.
Completely. And as you and I know, and as it's so easy to say, because it's so true, if Jesus were around today, he would condemn Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism, not only is it antithetical to what America is, it's utterly antithetical to his teachings. Um, Man, you're investigating this shit, and you've been doing it for years. These neo-Nazi groups, these right-wing extremist groups, these white supremacist groups. It's gotta be draining. Um, is the threat stupid question, is the threat, Chris, growing?
Well, let's kind of reframe where I'm at now. The I am now at a point in my career where I'm becoming a historian.
Mm.
I can tell you what it used to be like, but
Mhm.
the research, even writing reports that result in $3 million in damages against a white supremacist organization or get people locked up, not just for like petty crimes, but a
Yeah.
felony, right? My nonprofit organizations, one is Task Force Butler Institute. That is the research and training side. Veterans Fighting Fascism is more of a public education side. The public education side doesn't cost a dime because it's just me posting shit on a website. The
Yeah.
research and training side never got funded.
Yeah.
So the group of volunteers that I used to have that was
Yep.
up to 20 strong
Yeah.
has more or less evaporated because
Okay.
we've all grown exhausted over the last few years,
Yeah.
and we couldn't find anyone who wanted to invest in the work. And now it's too late. So now instead of doing research, I'm a podcaster. Not the life that I ever wanted,
Well,
but at least I can make money doing
well, yeah, and again, you and I've talked about this, and such a shame
it. Mhm.
because research on this threat is imperative. I don't get, Chris, why, and I've said this to you before, why there hasn't been money for the research of this. I do believe it's a growing threat. I believe um, we've got two major political parties in this country. I believe my former party has been overtaken by MAGA. It is a MAGA party. It is primarily a Christian nationalist party. And I'd want to fund research to really drill down on what the threat is so we know what we're facing.
Yeah. If you Google my name and you look and you click to over to news, you will see that all of the people who support my work are former Republicans.
Ah,
Nicole Wallace
yeah,
is the only host, a former Republican,
yeah,
only hosts on cable television that has ever had me on regularly. Um, it's Denver
yeah,
Riggleman,
yeah.
right? It's former
Former
Republicans
Republicans.
who recognize the threat
Yeah,
and believe that the work is important. Democrats tend to be very supportive. They're my audience.
yeah,
Um, they're the ones who share my work and believe that my work is important. But Democrats in power, Democrats who have influence, cultural influence, or influence as a newscaster,
yeah,
or influence as a billionaire,
yeah,
they are not interested in investing in this. And there's like the big problem. You've got the Republicans who were part of the party who
yeah,
have a platform as you do, want to raise up this work, but your Democratic
yeah.
equivalents don't seem to give a shit. And
No,
I can't square that circle. I don't know why.
well, no, that's really interesting, Chris, because generally in my space, kind of the never Trumper, no longer a Republican space, most of the big money that supports our space is Democratic money.
Mhm.
Obviously, no Republican money. And with Trump winning again, even some of the Republican money that didn't like him, now they all just said, fuck it. He's now the guy. So we got to suck up to him.
Yep.
So there's no Republican money, obviously, for any never Trump. It's all Democratic money.
Yep.
But that big Democratic money, it generally is funding political efforts,
Yep.
winning certain campaigns and races, and not the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, they'll drop $1 million
Yeah,
on pamphlets that get mailed out a day
yeah,
before an election in Kentucky. But
yeah,
to spend that $1 million on an organization that is 90% volunteers, we just
yeah,
need to fund the staff, make sure the staff can eat.
yeah,
Uh, and Democrats are like, no. And let me again, for anyone who might have just joined the last minute, Democrat donors, the big
yeah.
donors, the
The big donors.
foundations, they are
Yeah,
the ones who just don't give a shit.
yeah. This is, and again, as we close, this is, I think this is the greatest threat to our democracy right now.
Mhm.
Again, it's overtaken one of our two major political parties. Hello. You are, how can, Chris Goldsmith,
Mhm.
folks support what you're doing? Everybody listening to us right now, a couple please I'll make. Please follow Chris, subscribe to Chris here on Substack. Your new podcast, brother,
Yeah.
on offense. Describe what your new podcast is.
So on offense is built off of my Substack, and what the big goal of mine with my nonprofit work, with my business, with now this podcast is to convince people who love democracy to stop taking a defensive posture. We have been saying for 10 years, we need to defend democracy. We need to defend civil rights. If you're playing a game of chess, or you're playing a game of basketball, or you're fighting a war, if your only posture is defensive, you lose.
Yeah.
That is the way that any competitive game or situation works. So what I am trying to convince people to do is you can, within the bounds of the law, impose costs on the opposition the way that they do to us, right? Right now, they have all of the levers of power with the federal government. They're sending ICE into neighborhoods. There's not a lot we can do about that. But if there's an opportunity for a civil suit, like, let's sue the fuck out of these people. I'm not talking about frivolous things, but I'm talking about like anyone who has caused real harm. Let's fucking sue them. That's what we did to the neo-Nazis, and that's why, you know, we were destroying organizations. That's why we were eviscerating their levels of membership, because we weren't just defending our communities and holding up signs that say no hate. We were going out and unmasking these little fucking punks and imposing legal and economic and social costs on them.
That's so important.
We can apply what I've been doing to neo-Nazis, again, within the bounds of the law, to all of the fascists. We just have to find their weak points. An example would be the difference between a No Kings protest. Is great, and people need to see the visible protest to feel encouraged, to feel more brave. That is very important. But that was more of a defensive posture. Offensive was the Tesla takedown that plunged Tesla's stock, that made the richest man on the planet vulnerable, and got him, got him in trouble, with his board, got him kicked out of the White House, made Elon Musk a liability and toxic to everyone. That kind of offensive, like you're costing them real money, that kind of action is exactly what we need to do. So at the end of every single episode of On Offense, I ask my guest what their recommendation is for going on offense, for imposing costs on the opposition.
Everybody, two requests. Make sure you subscribe to Chris here on Substack, and please check out his new podcast, On Offense Podcast. Check it out. Become a listener and a follower of what Chris is doing. Chris, I want to close with two quick final questions. Your comment on ICE reminded me I wanted to go there. I'm scared to fucking death of these new ICE hires. They have God's money now. And I think I'm scared to death of the people ICE is hiring. And I think it's related to a lot of what you used to investigate. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, what it is going to take to impose costs on ICE as an organization and the Department of Homeland Security more broadly is we as Americans who have a brother or a cousin or a sister who is working with or cooperating with or collaborating with ICE, we need to treat them as collaborators. We need to recognize that a secret police force that is using violence without accountability, as part of an administration that is violating federal law, international law, UCM, Uniform Code of Military Justice, to murder people. That's the context. You need to start treating your family members, your friends who may just have a job with ICE as they are Nazi collaborators. That means don't go to Thanksgiving. That means don't answer their text messages. It means don't fucking say hi. Treat them like they're dead. The easiest thing that you can do, and the least expensive thing that you can do, though there is an emotional cost, is you can simply fucking block their phone number. It doesn't matter if you're if you have a sister-in-law who's intolerable and loves Trump, cut them the fuck off. You need to show them that there are social consequences to being a fascist. And that is the easiest way to do it. Christmas is coming up. So for the people watching this, if you want to fight fascism, don't go spend time with a fascist if they're in your family. Do not tolerate it. Just find other plans.
And I don't at all disagree with you. And I think people need to listen to what you just said. We need to get to a place down the road sometime when we can unify this country and all come together. But that day's down the road. We need to defeat fascism first, and we forget that. And this is hard work. We need to defeat fascism before there's any unification. Yeah. And we need to go on the offense to do it. And that's why I love your new podcast and the name of your podcast. Everybody, check it out. Follow, subscribe to Chris Goldsmith here on Substack. And please check out his podcast, On Offense, with Christopher Goldsmith. My brother, keep it. Oh, yeah, jump.
One more thing to pitch. You don't have to donate to my nonprofit. I don't care. Go to veteransfightingfascism.org.
Thank you. Thank you.
The entire project of Veterans Fighting Fascism is to teach people how to start anti-fascist book clubs. It is a way, and I'll keep this very quick. It's just an excuse to get out of the house, to learn about fascism, to get in the same physical place with people who are who share common values, so that you can take action and fight fascism in your backyard. Joe and I are national figures. We talk about national politics. We are focused on everything fascism at a national level. 99% of the people who are watching this right now, you should be focused on your school board. You should be focused on your town council, because that's where fascism grows, and that's where you can have the greatest impact.
Chris, I'll plug it, damn it. veteransfightingfascism.org. Everybody go check it out. Support the work Chris is doing. veteransfightingfascism.org. Go there. Hell, this is important work. My brother, thank you. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Good to see you, brother.
You too. Everybody else, thank you. Be brave.